Welcome back. You're watching Newslink. And now let's move on to this piece. In 2006, South Africa became the first African country to legalize same-sex marriage. But 16 years later, things are still tough for the LGBTQI-plus community. There seems to be a contrast between policies and lived experiences. Now, Dimakatso Mokwena, a 37-year-old from Bokgaga Ga-Maake in Limpopo, has published his first book, and it's titled Here Comes the Gay King. It tackles the realities of black gay people in South Africa. And he joins me now to talk more about the book as well as your experience. First of all, did I say your area that you come from correctly?
Bokgaga Ga-Maake. Good morning.
Very good morning to you, and thanks for the correction there. Tell us about the book, Here Comes the Gay King. Mm-hmm. What drove you to sit down and to pen what in some parts of the story is quite a painful journey for a black gay man in South Africa?
Mm-hmm. I think for me, the idea, I love reading novels and biographies and autobiographies. So that's fiction and non-fiction. And in all the reading that I was doing, I realized that there was something that's missing, and that was the experiences of black gay men in post-apartheid South Africa. So, and I became increasingly frustrated, and I said to my friends, why don't we have such books like this, They said, oh, well, you're the one who started writing, why don't you write the book? So, and as I sat down to write the book, I sought to reflect lived experiences of black gay men in South Africa, experiences that they can relate to and say, I can identify with the challenges that this character is going through. So the story is set in my village, and I'm using my royal house in the village. And the story, it's a gay love story between Peace Maake and Thomas Mgomezulu. So, and what happens is that Peace has been called by his ancestors to one day ascend the throne and become a king of his village. And when the story starts, it starts at the beginning of 2020 when South Africa, I think around March or July 2020, when South Africa is in harsh lockdown. What happens is that Peace's family says to him that he needs to inherit his late brother's widow. And so begins all the problems in the story.
Yes, because they all have internal battles that they're fighting. They want to be accepted.
Yes.
And the understanding of the family that, they are who they are is very difficult. And that friction is very clear in the book. Mm-hmm. How long did it take you to write this?
It took me approximately 18 months to write the book, and there were days that I didn't feel like writing. I think the longest that I didn't spend writing was 6 weeks because I was just frustrated. My creative juices were not overflowing. But I realized that because I love running, each time I would go out for a run, ideas they would just come onto my head. And each time that I go for a run, I take my cell phone with, so I'll just whip out my cell phone and jot down the kind of things that the characters were saying in my head. Because for me, when I was writing my novel, the characters, they became real people who lived in my head, and I was living and breathing them.
Let's talk about some of the challenges that black gay men face in South Africa. I mean, the book does highlight the exclusion and the closing off of the family because you're like this, you know?
Yes.
That is just one component. What are other lived experiences, are faced, and really just how do you navigate them?
It's really quite difficult, to navigate, the lived experiences of black gay people in South Africa. But one of the things that I do, because I'm a gay man myself, so I sought to reflect the gay community to itself to say, this is how you look like. Do you like what you see when you look on the mirror? Because I've realized that within the gay community, there is what we call intra-homophobia. So someone then they would say to that, oh, I don't like a feminine gay guy. There has to be straight acting. They must look like this. They must look like that. He must be buff. You can see my characters there.
Yes.
They are quite buff. So I sought to reflect that as well, and the obsession for gay men, like to look good, and what drives all of that. And also what I sought to do, is to reflect the issue of toxic patriarchy, because there is this woman who is a widow in the story, and she's just being told what to do, you know.
Yes.
She's just being tossed around to say, you will do this, you will do that. And for me, although I don't mention the word feminism in the story, because that is something that I want people to see on their own when they read the book, but I sought to reflect issues that women go through in the country, especially women in rural areas whereby, you know, they're just being told that this is what you're going to do, this is how you're going to live your life, you've got to submit yourself to the family. And one of the things that I also do in the book is that I reflect socio-political and socio-economic issues that are plaguing the country. You know, we might be living in the city. Right now here we are in Johannesburg, but what do other gay men in rural communities go through? So I seek to reflect those kind of realities, and I do all of that by taking this one love story between Thomas and Peace to say, in their love journey, there are people that they're traversing with, and I sought to reflect all those realities.
It's fascinating, and I did tell you earlier that I've gotten stuck in. I haven't quite finished it as yet, but I'm making my way through it, and it is, as I say, in many parts, a very painful story that is told here. When you were working through the story of Thomas and Peace, did you know how it was going to end, or did you just go page by page, just letting the story unfold in the most authentic way possible, or did you already see that this is how the story ends?
I think I knew what I wanted to do with the book. I knew how it was going to start, I knew the middle, and I knew how it was going to end. By the kind of themes that I explored, I didn't know that those are the kind of things that I wanted to do. So as I sat down to write, you know, the ideas, they just came to me. So how I wrote is that I don't write in chronological order. So I wrote chapter 1, I got bored, and then I went to chapter 10. I finished chapter 10, and I went to write the very last chapter, and then I just filled in the blanks in between.
Isn't that difficult, though?
I think for me, that's the easiest way to write, you know, because writing in chronological order for me, you know, like there are certain parts whereby I'm not feeling them at that point in time, and I would need inspiration. And one of the things that I'm very big on in the book is that I'm very big on research, because I want to reflect a lived reality of people. What I do is that, or one of the things that I did is that I went to Cape Town on, you know, it was some sort of a vacation, but I went there to conduct research for my novel, because there are places that I've been to in Cape Town before, and I wanted to write about those places in the book. Like, for instance, I arrive at Cape Town International Airport. There is just this stark contrast, you know, between the airport and there is this informal settlement. I think it's called Winnie Madikizela Mandela. Yes. And for me, I was like, but why is it like this, that in such a beautiful city like Cape Town, why do we have this city, and here is the airport, and here is this informal settlement? So what causes this? And as I said, you know, like, socio-political issues are some of the things that I write about in the book, and those are the kind of conversations that my characters are having. And then Thomas, who is Peace's boyfriend, is going to become the king. He then says to his boyfriend, but when you become the king, I don't want you to do this to your people.
Yes, absolutely. We have run out of time, but I have to ask you, where can people get their hands on a copy?
So people can get their hands on the copy by going to takealot.com, or also they can get an ebook on Smashwords and also on Amazon, and also they can DM me on Twitter and Instagram at selfierana.za, because I'm self-published, for them to get a copy of the book.
Thank you very, very much, Dimakatso, for your time this morning. Lovely, lovely story, and I really hope people will be able to enjoy it, but also just learn about different communities in the country. Thank you very much, Dimakatso Mokwena, there joining us this morning to speak about his book that highlights the plight of black gay people in South Africa, and that things haven't really changed for them since it was legalized to marry in 2006, rather.